I'm getting real serious about mining. I'm talking, just a couple thousand amps of electricity worth of mining. And that's just phase one. So, yo, I'm Vosk. I'm out here on the Voscoin mining farm. Behind me, you see the immersion shed, and that's gonna be what we focus on today. What is immersion mining? Why am I doing it? What immersion setups am I working on? And why is liquid cooling your Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency miners possibly the best thing you could do? And we'll talk about the pros and cons of it, right? Then over in the green shed, this is the hard drive mining shed. It's a little DIY data center. It's got HVAC on. It's a totally clean environment. It doubles as our field office right now because we have not finished building Voscoin HQ. Always something to do out here. This is the Digital Shovel Mini Pod. It's basically a plug-and-play, air-cooled crypto mining container. Okay, and then behind me over there is Voscoin HQ, where it's going to be basically the business center, office. Our team can come here and work. We will obviously be doing minor repairs in there, and we'll be shooting some videos because in addition to building a mining farm, we've also been building the Voscoin YouTube channel. But so that's kind of the primer. Let's just jump straight into what we've got going on here. The gray shed on our farm originally deployed in a mock shipping container size, and that would allow us to design an air-cooled mining container basically, right? But I was able to get this when it was still pretty hard to get things. Quality is top notch, vinyl siding, 2x6. This shed will live as long as I will, okay? Which, that's a while, but not, maybe too long. Oh man, I'm stressing a lot these days. Up there is Starlink. We originally deployed the mining farm on Starlink. It's satellite internet, and it's the best option if you have no other options. Since then, we've moved to hard-wired internet. We actually have Verizon out here, and Comcast Xfinity is a scam if you can get literally any other option, because Comcast wanted to bill us like 40 grand to hardwired internet connection. Verizon cost us zero. Yeah. Quick dirty security with Ring, right? We have our service panel over here. We are pulling single phase electricity. That's all we have available so far. 3-phase in the future. This is a 400 amp service. Okay, we've got a 400 amp service on the pod. We got a 400 amp service at the HQ, and we have a 400 amp service at the hard drive mining shed, but we've only pulled 200 of it, and we've got 200 amps stashed for our next mining deployment, which right now we're planning to do an air-cooled mining deployment on that, but more on that later. So 400 amps is what we got to work with. End game 3-phase electricity, end game more electricity, end game solar power too, but we're not quite there yet. You may notice a spoiler. There is something there and it's spinning, but that video is still in editing, but that is forcing us to get a lot more serious and meticulous in the planning stage of this. So we have our DCX immersion deployment. That's been here. That's been, it's not news. It's, we had that video go out on the channel. Really impressed with the DCX immersion systems we saw when we toured a DCX immersion mining farm on a very big scale. This is the fog hashing unit, B6D model, very similar to this new C6 model running right next to the DCX 8 miner unit. And again, I got a nearly hour-long video coming on the fog hashing, which will teach you anything you want to know and include all the install footage in the not-so-far future. This is a Bixbit dry cooler, and may I tell you, this thing is big, okay? It is heavy. It's serious. And that's not all. That is not all. So let's go. Whoop. It's so quiet. It's so incredible compared to air-cooled facilities. It's just a little toasty right now in the most bestest way. I'm sounding like a Little Caesars pizza. Not really going to talk too much about the fog hashing unit, but let me just tell you, you will want to watch that video no matter if you mine, don't mine, or you're thinking about immersion mining, or you even just a nerd or whatever. You're going to enjoy it. It is crazy. So we came into the building here. right? And we ran all these L630R 30 amp circuits, 240 volt. Every orange wire you see is a 30 amp circuit, a 240 voltage, single phase electricity. Basically, you see that little writing up there, edge of wall. We're gonna put a wall here, cut a bunch of intake fans in, exhaust fans, intake vents in, exhaust fans, I don't know if I can speak anymore, and run air through, put a row of racks up here in the middle, have a cool side, a hot side, simple, easy, breezy, beautiful, Boss Coin mining form. But missions change, like Chief said, they always do, and so this is kind of where we're at. So we are deploying immersion in here, and this is our footprint. This is what we have to work with. You may also notice we've got another dry cooler in there. That's the smaller Bixbit unit. So this is going to be the 2-3 miner Bixbit cell, and this is a 6 miner Bixbit cell. So watch out for that install video where we work through all that craziness. This is just a simple workbench, repair bench, doing field repairs and testing out here. Until we get the HQ set up. This is just a sweet Husky workbench and little drawer. Honestly, it helps a lot keeping things in one spot organized, and I got a bunch of stuff in there. We got the meter box set up. We just released our collab edition with them, right? Link below, all that stuff. We also have a link for Altair, and more importantly, the code VOSCOIN in both these places to save yourself some coin. These mining PDUs, I cannot understate, are great. They're simple. They're small, good form factor. They give you all the data that you could want on here, your power factor, your cumulative kilowatt hours consumed, your electricity hertz, your voltage, your current amp draw, and your current watt draw. Geez, what more do you want? It's also been really cool to see them side by side with the meter box, which uses the Drock meter. So that way I can compare and be like, is the Drock reading accurately? Is the Altair reading accurately? And they both pull the exact same data all the time, which is, again, pretty cool to see. So let me take you over here and let's do a quick upgrade. So I just got this cable in. It's a C13 connection, right? We got an L630R plug, and what we're gonna do is I'm gonna unplug the PDU, this Triplite one I have that's, when you look at those Altair ones, they're so much smaller. And so I already have these outlets. So it's a sunk cost for me. Jeez, that pump is really annoying. I cannot believe how loud that pump is. All right, so you saw me run that wire, right? And it's like, why am I even doing it this way? So I already had these outlets and circuits set up, so right now they're a sunk cost for me, right? I can move them, repurpose, and rip out stuff. Yeah, that's true to a degree, maybe one day eventually, but they're already sitting here, so why not just utilize them? So originally, I did this exact same thing, running this plug into my switch, that just gave that its own little power circuit, and doing the same thing here with the dry cooler. And so now that we plug that in, right, before we kind of move, finally, I guess I'm talking too much into this planning stage, let's make sure the dry cooler is actually working and back online before I fry my miners. Yeah, we running. We're running. It's no secret, I love mining, which naturally means that I love, or at least need, mining rigs. That's where ASIC Marketplace comes in. They sell all different types of cryptocurrency mining rigs. They get them to me quickly, which makes the difference with my ROI. And you know what else helps the ROI? If you punch in the code VOSCOIN to save some coin the next time you order a miner from them. All right, so that's good. That's what we wanted to see. All right, so that's kind of pretty much where we're at. Quick upgrade, always trying to, just even do one little thing. If I do one little thing every day, one day I'll be done. Closer to it, right? Alexa says I'll never be done. I'll be done one day. I'm actually honestly getting close to finishing the immersion shed in this stage of the build out. And that's part of the planning, and that's why it's, to be frank, getting so serious right now. So any way you look at it, those containers are fixed position, right? I'm running cables through the wall. They've got circuits ran to them. The fall caching unit has wheels and those little locker feet, so I could move it a little bit if I really wanted to, but I am never going to, ever. Same with the DCX unit. Dropped that one on a pallet. It's actually the pallet it came with, pretty decent pallet. And I got it situated over there. Understand that these weigh, over 500 pounds each. If not even more. It's, to be frank, it's crazy. So we got over 1,000 pounds in the corner right there. So yeah, these aren't moving, and I could really move the DCX one with the pallet jack if I really wanted to, but again, silicone the holes in the wall, so that'll get ripped out. And why, right? It's not unless it's broken, and I absolutely cannot do the repair without moving it. So consider those fixed positions. Now, what else is next for VosCoin? Okay, so I've become very interested in immersion mining for many reasons. It's fun. I wanted to deploy this stuff on the farm, yes, but why do I have all these different models? Well, in addition to running and building a mining farm, we run and build and operate the VosCoin YouTube channel, content creator, stuff like that. It's fun. I love making videos, writing articles, stuff like that. And if you're watching this video, seriously, thank you, and please subscribe if you haven't already. So having all these different immersion models, right, for no reason, and you don't make content or something, honestly, it's insanity. Why complicate your life? You got no overlap parts, spare parts. You got to learn how to do all this stuff differently. Makes no sense. But that's why I'm doing it. And I've been fortunate to receive, these items to review from DCX, Fall Caching, Bixbit, and so forth. So there is that benefit. But there's also an added cost of, all the time I have to sink in, learning all these different things. I still have to, pay my electrician and do all this other stuff. So, it's not like it's just, snap my fingers, I got free stuff, and I just throw my miner in it and giggle and laugh my way to the, Bitcoin bank. It's pretty involved. This has been intense. I would classify this honestly as a bit overwhelming. Anybody can work through this, and I hope that our videos make it a lot easier. But it's an engaging thing. It would be impressive for you to do this out of the gate as a beginner miner. So, with the whole stage set, what's the planning? What's next? So you can see everything I have in here, and I have them roughly set up to kind of what I was originally thinking. But we now have the C2 fall caching on order, which is basically the little 2 miner version. I want to put that next to the big boy. So my first thought is to slide these Bixbit miners down. I also have the 2 DCX unit miner on hand. It's called the BitPod. I'm thinking that that'll just basically go where that black dry cooler is. So at a glance, right, I've got all this space over here, and I could just put the dry coolers here. This shed is 24 feet long and I believe 10 feet wide. And so, I got a lot of room. But what's interesting though is the way that you need to install these Bixbit, big heavy dry coolers, they come with super strut, which is like this metal tubing you see. Basically, ideally, you pour a concrete pad right here, and then you drill the super strut into it, and then you mount the cooler to the super strut like a very heavy duty metal, bracket structure. Honestly, it's pretty involved, right? You look at the fall caching unit, I threw it on a couple 6x6s, done. You look at the DCX unit, it comes with these little rubber asphalt feet. Yeah, I didn't have to put those on, it came with them on. I just put the thing over there, done. So that's pretty involved, and I need to make it big enough where it's like an actual stable base, and I've got to clear the footprint of that and the other one, so we look at that sizing, right? For comparison, it's almost like a door and a half, pretty much. So let's say we need the footprint of 3 doors on the side of this. I know I should be using real measurements, but we're gonna end up soaking up at least half of this side of the shed by the time we put both of those dry coolers, and the C2 fall caching is gonna, need some space. We could cheat it over and kind of put it over here in the corner, but it might be offset a little bit to just bring it right out the back and make it easier. But yeah, we're gonna utilize the majority of this side of the shed. And then it begs the question, do we want to leave room for any possible future expansion there? Okay, now I know we're standing at the side of a shed. I hope, we make this a little more interesting on the editing side. But let me bring you over to the other side. Okay, I don't want to do too much over here because we have our electric service, which is soaking up, we could say, 20% of our wall. We have our Ethernets coming in, which I would say probably if you just consider that dead wall space, that's 33% of the wall. And then we've got the HVAC mini split for the hard drive mining shed. Okay, this, when you look at it, right, and we look forward, we probably only have 40% of this wall left. If not, we just even call it 30%, so that we don't shoot air at this thing, right? I don't want to heat soak this. I don't want to put any more, strain, wear and tear, decrease the efficiency, which is just going to increase my electricity bill and decrease the lifespan of this equipment. So, I could safely say I've got about 25% of this wall to work with. The Bitpod DCX2 miner unit it's basically the same as this DCX cooler, right? But it's just one fan, and it still has that side piece. It's kind of like 2/3 the size of this. So I'm thinking I'm just going to put it here on this wall, and that's kind of simple enough, and be done with that. I guess where I'm kind of conflicted is if I want to leave any more room for expansion or testing another model. The only thing that kind of comes to mind and makes sense would be if I would bring like the Bixbit units like all the way down the wall here. Pretty much, bring them, somewhere like right around here, and that would essentially give me the space for another 6 miner unit. And so we'll talk about, how much electricity do you even have here, dude? We'll talk about that here in a second. I'm not married to this workbench being here, right? I mean, that workbench can move. It's really, even with the pegboard, it's not all that tall. I could put it under this electric service. And as this project, reaches its, essentially completion, I'm totally fine using the garage door actually just as another wall. That's actually what I'm thinking. So I'm thinking I'm going to put up a storage rack here, or maybe move the storage rack, that's the blue one that's over here, over there, just store things. I know at a glance this may not be like, oh, the most exciting thing ever, but it's crazy. Like, I have a pretty big workspace in here, but I got a lot of crazy stuff going on, and trying to kind of sift through this and work through it all, right? Because I ended up with a junction box on the wall to power that fog hashing B6D unit. I'm gonna have to put a piece of plywood on the wall over here because I've got to get this panel up on the wall, and this panel up on the wall, and that panel up on the wall, and only that one actually fits between the studs. And I'm gonna pour the rest of this out. This is the fog hashing immersion fluid. So when I fill up the next tank, I'm gonna take whatever I can out of this and put it into one of the smaller containers I have. Because if you don't know, these immersion fluid containers, right? That thing right there, $200 shipped all day. This is expensive fluid. Obviously, if you find somebody liquidating or used, or they bought it and never used it, you could maybe get stuff cheaper. But like if you can't hunt down a deal, that's $200 all day. A couple random things with the shed is I would like to swing this door inside, but I really couldn't swing the door past this tension piece right here. But I want to flip it. I want to flip the hinge and everything and swing the door inside instead of swinging out. Then I can get my hinges inside. It's just a safer setup. It's a mistake I made in the beginning when I built this because, well, I hadn't really done this before in a while, or got lucky last time, whatever. I did correct that on the drive mining shed, so that door is inset, it swings inside. But yeah, just little lagging stuff that I'd like to clean up. thinking about the planning and the placement and everything like that. I don't want to shoot any air this way. I don't really want to cut into the garage door. And I know I talk about setting up a shelf and things like that, but that is always something I could remove, and then I could regain garage door access. Having the garage door access has been fantastic through the actual build process, has made getting, big stuff in and out much easier. You could combat that with maybe using like a double door or something, but double doors aren't all that secure. So I've got 400 amps of electricity coming in here. You can ignore all the L630R outlets. Generally most of them will not be used. I will be using obviously the 4 in the corner. Each of those power 2 miners. And those 2 miners are the 8 miners in the DCX submersion mining container. I'm using those 2 outlets for now over there. I may just take one of these off the wall, and I'm gonna have all this extra wire and basically trace that wire back and put it over here on this wall. If not, just grab both of those and run them back and just have 2 just in case it's not enough juice, and I'll power the DCX2 miner unit with those because you do need to run power into them. So let's be very clear about that, right? There's no power for your miners in the DCX enclosures. You run power into the fog hashing, right? And then it has power cables in here that you run to your miners. The Bixbit units have these power panels, and you run these into their power panels, and then you plug the miners in here. Then you've got the power cables, the Ethernet all already ran. Alright, well, that's enough looking for one day. You get the point. That's all that stuff's already ran. So we're running a huge copper wire 1-aught to the power panel, and then we're gonna run it down here and get it all wired up. So when we measure it out, and I pushed this up a little bit. I didn't want to hit any of the cables that are under the fog caching unit over there. Right, so right now it's at about 16 feet. So if we came outside, and let's just say theoretically, right, as we kind of verbally work through this, we put a 16-inch pad. That seems like overkill for what we need to do. I think that we could run, like an 8-foot pad and maybe just pretty much come off, a little bit inset from the door right here. I mean, maybe just kind of line it up with the gray vinyl. The downside, though, is like aesthetically, this isn't really the most ideal thing here. Aesthetically, I'm thinking like, well, why don't we just run it down the whole thing and then we'll just put the dry coolers on it? That's true. We could do that, but I would need to get the dry coolers elevated because we can definitely get some serious snows out here, and I don't want these to potentially get buried in snow or some kind of issue like that, or there's a huge flash flood and the water starts to rise a little bit. Again, not the most, pretty unlikely things. But that's kind of the thing. You plan for the most unlikely thing to happen so that if that happens, you aren't screwed. So I don't know. At a glance, I think, max concrete pad, we would come in a foot on each side. That would, kind of round it out for us here in a way. And then we work through the super strut install. We got a lot of it. And then for the C2 dry cooler, I probably just drill it into a 6x6. Honestly, wondering about the size. I am truly wondering if these 2 scrap pieces will actually end up as like the perfect feet for it, because it's just a mini version of that thing. That's a water curtain on the back. It's kind of like misting to get additional cooling capability. So if you look at the footprint of this 6-miner Bixbit container, we've got about 4 feet to deal with. If you look at this one, let's just call it 3 feet, or even up to 4 feet. So if we came down here, right, we got this tape measure all the way out to 16 feet. So if we run it backwards, and we would come to 8 feet, right? And so we would end up right about here, which is about how much space we would need to run these. It would make sense probably just to sandwich them side by side, with a bit of room in between, and then put the associated power panels on the left as well as the right side of them. If we ran it in this vertical orientation, which is kind of how it's supposed to be set up, but I don't really like the way it protrudes more than it needs to with the narrow shape of my shed. I wonder, do I go with this, perpendicular orientation, I guess, and you know, it's got a footprint of about 2 feet. So that would save me, you know, a foot or so, foot and a half, maybe, depending on how it all plays out. And basically, like, what I really wonder, right? So, you know, I plop the C2 over here. That just makes sense. And then do I try to leave room for another 6 miner unit in here, which would give me the ability to condense these 2 miner units eventually if I wanted to? Is that really even worth it? Give me the opportunity to maybe just deploy and test and set up another immersion kit. There might be an exciting new model that comes out in the future, and I'll have 0 space to possibly work with. I do also wonder, maybe instead of putting a bunch of shelves over here, I could just, you know, get a narrow long table, kind of like this one I have here, but maybe a little more narrow, and just keep it there so that's easy to move and regain garage door access if I should, you know, want or choose to do so. Put the workbench here, and then snug the shelf up next to it, and I probably would have room to put another shelf over here, because dude, I'm really trying to get organized. I'm so sick of stuff being freaking everywhere. It's driving me crazy. I want everything organized. I want everything clean. I'm even venturing to get back into wire management. I'm telling you, things are going to be different moving forward. Oh man, I'm just kind of like feeling stressed and like overwhelmed, and I've got the electrician coming tomorrow to wire up the 2 Bixby units, so it's like I need to make some, you know, choices here. You know, I can obviously change things, adjust things. I'd love to hear your inputs down in the comments if you guys have some good ideas. You know, you guys in the comments have just been incredible and really helped develop the VosCoin mining farm over the years. I'm just kind of thinking it makes sense to pull these units down here, you know, towards this, you know, utilize this whole wall and leave space for another 6 miner unit. You know, in the future I could, you know, if I really downclock these miners, I could squeeze another one on here. And so, you know, how does this all shake out, right? So let's say that miners, you know, by default consume 13 amps, right? So we got 8 miners in there, 6 miners in there, 6 will go in there, 2 or 3 will go in there. We'll have another pod, you know, just pop that up, 2 will go in there, another you know, C2 fog hashing pop up, 2 will go in there. And you know, before we even talk about running any of the supporting equipment, we got 20 miners in big units, and then we add in 6 more. So we've got 26 miners, which is a freaking lot. So we get 26 miners times, let's say 13, right? It's 338 amps. I've got a 400 amp service, right? Times 0.8. I, you know, effectively have like 320 like usable amps, you know, essentially. So we downclock it, right? And what are these miners using when they're downclocked? So I need to get these PDUs up on the wall, make them look nice. But let me just plug this guy real quick, and let's look at them. So we'll get our data readout, and so I've got 2 miners that are downclocked on here using about 17 amps. Wow, there is so much fluid that is wicked onto this. Oh my gosh, that's gross. That's not what I wanted to see. I need to get these on the wall. Alright, so let's say we got 17, right? We can even round up, we'll go 18 divided by 2. We're using 9 amps per miner. And let's just say we got them all downclocked to that range. We got 9 times 26. We're only using 234 amps. Wow, that is significantly less. So let's say some of these miners don't get downclocked quite that much, and maybe we end up like around 260 or something. So we still have 60 usable amps. And so if we've got miners downclocked to 9 amps times 6, we got 54. We literally have the space right here to throw in a whole nother 6 miner unit. So I think it only makes sense to plan for it, and it just makes sense to have it on this wall. And so then it just makes sense to keep these manufacturers together. You know, it's better for the video content, and I don't know, just mentally I want to put everything together, right? We got the big spit corner, we got, you know, in the yellow corner, the fog hashing versus DCX. I feel like I'm going crazy, man. I'll just forewarn you that like all of this stuff is hefty as crap, and I think I'm a strong guy. All right, watch this. That's all I got. But it's difficult to move them. You really need just like a second person, so you're not doing some weird stuff. You're not throwing your back out, right? You know, you want to lift them off. You want to move the pallet. I do think it makes sense, you know, depending on how you do this, whatever, to always throw these on pallets. It gets all this stuff off the ground. It gets everything closer to you, and you know, I don't really think it's worth the effort to go like 2 pallets high, or you start wasting money buying a bunch of, you know, wood and bolting it together, stacking a bunch of stuff up, whatever, and you want to make sure it has like the structural integrity to be able to handle these. So, you know, I just use the pallets they come on, right? Instead of having to, you know, do something with them, I just utilize them, and you know, if anything, I cut them to fit. So, you know, it's a little secret, but I zipped, you know, half of this pallet off. Oh man, so I guess thinking about it, I should just prep this whole wall, because I mean, I need to maximize my footprint, right? When you really think about the strategy of this, you know, it's a matter of utilizing the maximum of what we have until we can upgrade, and, you know, whatever else. You know, forget about what's, you know, further along in the future. You know, I need to be ready for the full-blown bowl run. But this is a sunk cost on this building. All this stuff's sunk cost. You know, I got the service set up. I got everything set up. Everything's sunk cost. Everything's here. So literally the only addition, generally speaking, to say like add another 6 miners deployed in immersion would be obviously the immersion kit cost if I need to buy it, and then I need to wire it up. You know, paying for the wire, just like the copper wire to run the Bixbits. I think we have more than we need, but it dropped $1,000 with the electric supply shop today. It's freaking ridiculous. It's crazy. So yeah, I think it makes sense to just go ahead and prepare to have the space for a 6 miner, and I'll add it in the future if I want to. Maybe I won't, but that way I could really cap off the immersion shed. The electric service is fully utilized, get everything done, dusted, tidied up, and just consider it done. When the electric service is maxed, that's it. It's done. It's over. You know, I'm not going to pool more power in here than the single phase. When we get to 3-phase, we're going to reevaluate, make a new plan, you know, grab that and move forward, you know, TBD. So, you know, it makes sense to just drop the little DCX one over here. And, you know, let's kind of talk about it. Why would you even immersion mine? Well, it's much quieter than air-cooled mining. Let me take you over, you know, by 12 miners are running in the pod, because half the pod is down right now, so it only works at half capacity. But this is just one exhaust fan that I have on the pod, and then 12 miners are running inside of it. Okay, so we're walking around, not too bad, right? But you know, it's barely 70 degrees in the sun right now. I mean, it's probably like 65 right now. It's pretty cool out here. All right, and so that's the sound outside. Let me show you what it sounds like. Go into it. Spoiler, it's gonna get louder. Watch, so even when we crack this door, so much louder. Let's walk in there. Very loud. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We're running 11 miners. Those 2 up there aren't running. Those machines are running pretty quiet for air-cooled miners right now, and it's very loud. And so the DCX immersion unit, you know, I would really kind of say runs like whisper quiet. And in retrospect, when I lived in a neighborhood with an HOA and stuff like that, I really regret not deploying immersion miners there. It would have been quiet. I could have just dropped a little tiny shed in my backyard and ran immersion miners. Pretty much all the noise you hear is going to be the fog hashing pump. It's not that loud, right? I'm still yelling from being over there. Like, no, like, do I want this thing in my bedroom? No. But this thing is like whisper quiet. All you really hear is like the flow of the water, because basically the way this pump works in that unit. But basically, right, I mean, it's freaking eye candy to watch these miners run the fluid. I mean, look at this. too, you know, you're supposed to be able to overclock these miners more. They run longer. It's quiet. It's clean. You know, depending on where you do this, you don't even need to add supplemental airflow. Being that this is just a shed in a farm field, basically, I'm gonna need to cut in an intake vent. Probably just gonna, you know, utilize that vent that's already there, and then cut in an exhaust fan. I just need to move a little bit of air. If I just get stagnant air out of here, it's not going to essentially hotbox itself. But yeah, I mean, the footprint, I mean, you get incredible density. I mean, look at the footprint. Like, that's running 6 miners, that's running 8 miners. That's a lot of density for what it is. I mean, it's a freaking storage container in your storage room size, right? Downside is you do have to punch a hole in the wall because you need to either run coolant out to the dry cooler or immersion fluid to be cooled. You know, so you have to deal with, you know, some hoses. Not the end of the world, but something to understand and be aware of. You could also hide this, disguise this behind like a little decorative fence in your HOA neighborhood, or maybe a couple existing bushes or something you have, and you'll be just A-okay. That's my lawn fan. Yeah, my grass gets a little hot, so I put a fan on. But you know, that's the gist. That's the benefit there. The downside, right, is there's an extra cost. Essentially, when you look at these kits, you know, the pricing varies, but it's roughly plus $1,000 per miner to immerse them. Like, you're gonna roughly pay $1,000, you know, to get the equipment, to get the dry cooler, to get the immersion fluid, everything shipped to your place. You know, it's gonna cost you about $1,000 a unit. One of these in particular is a little bit cheaper than the other ones, but you know, you have to watch the other videos to find out what's going on with that. Yeah, it's a teaser, it's a spoiler, it's clickbait, whatever. And that's the benefit for the subscribers. Subscribers are the best in the game. Shout out to everyone who subscribes to Boscoin. Be the best. A downside that people don't think about, and honestly, the cost really adds up depending how you do it, right, is going to be intake filters on air cooling, right? So you look over there, and those 3 overhangs have 6 air filters in them each. That's a lot of air filtration on that. You know, so I could just cut a little intake in up there, and then I'm just going to put a little baby filter behind it, which will be cheap. And, you know, I run a little bit of air through here, just have some basic filtration so just everything in the world doesn't get in, because, I mean, they're bugs you ain't never seen out here. All right, I don't need them going for an eternal bath in the immersion fluid. You know, that keeps my costs down. You can run your miners efficiently. You take the actual fans off each miner when you immerse them, so you don't have the power cost associated with running those fans. You do add in the power cost of running the dry coolers, but depending on the actual unit and its efficiency, then it's actually more beneficial to run the dry cooler and the immersion pump and everything than it is to run all the fans. Like, you're saving on electricity, you're using less, you're coming out on a win. And that's really the goal, is like, how can we make everything better in every category? How can we have the equipment last longer? How can we be able to overclock them more if we want to, right? Crazy bull run, time to eat. How can we, you know, reduce our maintenance costs, right? Air filters, things like that. How can we reduce our running costs, right? You know, the actual just cost of running these fans. Keep in mind, you run air-cooled fans, they consume electricity too. All 4 fans on the digital shovel basically equal an entire additional Antminer S19 Bitcoin miner running at full bore. You know, so that's at my electricity cost, you know, $7-8 a day. That's a lot. That adds up, especially annually. And this stuff runs annually, or at least it's supposed to. The downside, right, other than the cost, is going to be, you know, your stuff's in immersion fluid. Huge pain to clean. You know, if you're like, I'm not going to do this forever, I want to sell this rig in a year or something like that, you know, immersion's definitely not for you. You can clean this, but good luck. It's not for me. I'm not going to waste my time cleaning it. This fluid's kind of gross. You know, get on your hands. It's obviously going to be a carcinogen. And that's why, you know, you see this clip, I'm using freaking hazmat gloves when I'm making a modification in the actual immersion pod when I'm submerged in the fluid. So for me, I consider deploying these miners an immersion commitment. You know, we're married. This is it. These things will live here. They will mine here. They will die here. And one day, when they're just basically completely worthless or don't work anymore, I'm going to take them out and I'm going to either use them for parts, chuck them, or maybe, you know, depending, things get so bad, terrible, I'll just shut the thing down, let it lay. I got space out here. That was a big reason why we bought just under 100 acres to build basically our homestead and our mining farm. So, you know, that's been my plan from the beginning. I'll let my, you know, great grandkids sort through this stuff. Be like, why the hell does Grandpa Crazy Man Bosk have all these baths in that shed? And they'll be like, Timmy, get out the fluid! And they'll be like, I'm floating my rubber duckies in. I'm joking, going crazy, or being serious, who knows? But I'm completely serious when I'm like, set it up, let it run forever, turn it off one day, maybe replace miners, and you know, that's it. My end game is to power things with solar, so these can only make a couple bucks a day, and if I'm generating the electricity for them, then cool, as long as it makes more to run them than it does to, say, maybe sell my electricity back to the electric company, then that's just what we'll do. So I guess that's where I'm at with the immersion shed planning. It's been crazy to kind of work through this, develop it. It's been interesting, it's been overwhelming, it's been incredibly more involved by utilizing the different equipment. I could not recommend against that any less, unless you want to be a, you know, crazy crypto YouTuber guy. Or maybe you like it and it's fun. I mean, it is cool. It is interesting. It is fun to, you know, compare them. So, I mean, if that's your jam, cool. But, you know, otherwise, do some research, watch our videos, and you'll probably settle on the one you want after all these other videos come out. But that's all I'll say for now. I think that's all I got. That's where I'm at with the current stage of the immersion mining shed liquid cooled Bitcoin mining. Every single miner in there is mining Bitcoin right now. It's really, in essence, becoming the Bitcoin mining shed. And I'm mining all my altcoins in the other buildings out here. So if you have ideas, I'm all ears. I know I said my electrician's coming tomorrow, but please, I can still make changes. By the time you probably see this, I'll still be able to make changes. I don't plan to have all this stuff deployed and finished up for, you know, at least a month. And thankfully, because of the current situation with the mining farm, I don't have any miners down. So I'm not crunched like I was to get the most recent immersion deployment up to get my miners back online and, you know, earning passive income 24/7, chasing the dream, trying to break the chains of financial freedom. If all that stuff interests you, I hope that you stick around and watch me on this crazy crypto journey. I'm here to keep it real, have fun, share everything I learn, all my trials and tribulations, the ups and downs here on Boscoin. And on that note, we're going to close it out with 10 seconds of tails, because what's 10 more seconds on this video length? She's our CCR, Chief Cutie Officer here at the Boscoin YouTube channel, also the owner. And we run 10 seconds of tails on every video because she kickstarted this YouTube channel in more ways than one. So that's all I got. Thank you so much. I'll see you on the next one.